Hi, I'm Chris Salviati, Chief Economist at Apartment List, and today I want to talk a little bit about seasonality in rent pricing trends. A lot of folks ask me about if there's a good time of year to move. Are there predictable times when rents are more expensive and less expensive? This is what we economists refer to as seasonality, and the short answer is that yes, there actually are clear trends in rental pricing. Rents tend to increase the most in the summer months, and then pricing actually backs off and rents get a little bit less expensive in the winter. So the short answer there is that yes, there are clear and predictable seasonal patterns, but what that actually means for your move, I think we need to talk about how big those swings really are and what drives them, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing I want to talk about is, why is this even a thing? Why is it the case that rents track with the seasons? Really, it just comes down to supply and demand. If you think about that simple Econ 101 framework, and it's the case that demand tends to be highest in the summer. More folks are moving in the summer, and so because you have more renters competing for fewer units, property owners have more leverage to increase prices at that time of year, and that's exactly what they typically do. Then in the off season, which is the fall and winter months, fewer folks are moving, and so there's less demand, and property owners that have units that they need to fill have to offer discounts to lure in that demand and get those vacant units occupied at that time of year. Now you might be thinking, why is this the case? Why do more people move in the summer compared to the winter? There's actually a handful of different reasons. One that's actually quite simple is really just that a lot of this comes down to the timing of the school year. If you think about the situation of families who have kids in school, those households are not going to want to move during the school year if they can avoid it. So typically any household with children is going to wait for that summer break. And so those moves tend to happen more often in the summer. And then if you think forward to folks who are graduating either from high school or college and entering the job market for the first time, those first jobs, which is typically when folks strike out on their own and form new households, that tends to happen in that summer after graduation as well. And even for college students who are still in school, those folks also are going to be signing leases in the summer before that school year begins. So school years really dictate a lot of this. And then if that school year kind of has you signing that summer lease in one year, well, now going forward, your lease is going to come up 12 months later. So that's going to be in the summer, again, when you were considering, do I renew this lease or do I start looking for a new place? And so signing that first lease in the summer actually has ripple effects going forward, which is why this is such a persistent trend. But it goes beyond the school years too. There's also weather, which has a big impact here. In many parts of the country, trying to move during the winter is really just unpleasant. And so a lot of folks are waiting for that summer weather to make it a little bit easier to move. And in every part of the country, even if weather is less of a factor, you have more daylight during the summer as well, which just actually matters for the logistics of moving. That's something a lot of folks keep in mind as well. And then in the winter, you also just have that holiday season, which very few folks want to move during those winter holidays if they can avoid it. And so that's another reason that disincentivizes those moves during the winter. So a few factors there that all add up to higher demand in the summer and less demand in the winter. So as we're talking about this, you're probably thinking about, what does this actually mean for me in terms of dollars and cents? How big are these seasonal swings that we're talking about? I would say that ultimately we are talking about, in many cases, a meaningful difference between the summer and the winter, but, often not a big enough difference that it's really going to break the bank. So just to kind of put some more specifics on this, if we look at 2025, which is the most recent year that we have full data for, the national median rent peaked in July at a price of $1,403, and then it declined through the remainder of the year to a low point in December of $1,358. So to do that math for you, that's a difference of $45 per month, the decline from that peak in July to the bottom in December. In percentage terms, that's 3.2%. So, that's almost $50 a month. That's definitely, for most folks, that's money that you can do something else with. It's certainly nothing to sniff at. But I will also say that in many years, that discount might not be that large. The past couple of years have been soft ones for the rental market. And so if we look at a more typical stable year for the rental market, that decline from the peak in the summer to the bottom in the winter is maybe more like 1 to 2%. So you're thinking maybe more on $20 per month. So if you're just considering, can I get a better deal by waiting for that winter off season? The short answer is that in many cases you can. That decline that we just talked about could be in some cases almost $50 per month. In more expensive markets, maybe even a bit more than that. But in, a year of kind of stronger demand or in more affordable markets, it's going to be less. So, do with that what you will. The other factor I will say that is important to keep in mind here is that rent concessions are also something that is in play. So in that winter off season, landlords also may be more likely to be offering a free month of rent or more. And so if you can get that type of deal in the off season, that can also increase the motivation to be moving during that off season. So if you're thinking about whether or not you should be trying to time your move for the off season, I would say that for most folks, it's really not going to be the make or break factor. I would think about what is actually motivating your move. Are you moving for a new job? Are you moving to a new city? And that usually should be the thing that is dictating the timing of your move. Now, if you do have true flexibility in when you move, you might be able to get a little bit of a discount during that winter off season. But I will say another factor to keep in mind is that you are trading something off. Now, the reason that you're getting that discount in the off season, which we talked about, is because there's less demand during that time of year, which is because fewer people are moving. Fewer people moving means that fewer units are becoming vacant. And so when you move in that winter off season, you're going to have fewer options, less units available to lease, which could kind of change your thinking about it as well. You are getting a discount, but you are trading off some optionality in doing so. Now, at the end of the day, this is going to be a personal decision, but I think I'm a big believer in really just arming folks with the data. And so I hope that this video has kind of done just that and given you a little bit more information to help you decide whether you should try to take advantage of that seasonality in the market.